how are you?
Hi.
Hi, we were just chit-chatting until you guys got here, so
Hi,
that's
Laurie.
awesome. Well, welcome to the live. We already have a few people on, and people are kind of coming in as we speak, I'm sure. Welcome to my wine room on the Eastern Shore of Maryland.
Thank you for having us.
I do have a small little bit of real estate that I give to my husband for his Jameson collection, so if you see whiskey, that's why.
Nice.
You got to make the husband happy every now and then, right?
Oh, for sure. I know that. It's all negotiation, right?
Exactly. So we have Shay in South Carolina already on, my friends the Benisons in New Jersey, and people are just coming in from all different places. But I want to introduce you guys to Katie Santora, the winemaker.
Hello.
What? Hey.
I said hello.
Winemaker at Chehalem. And then Melissa Burr from Stoller Wine, which is where you are right now, if I recognize that background.
You're right, Laurie. Yeah, we're here. It's a little dark to see us, but we figured the vineyard is really the highlight, so you get to see that a little better than you see us right now. It's kind of tricky. But yeah, we're sitting at Stoller. We're in the new experience center that we just opened. It's a massive tasting space. It's got a lot of screens and technology, a lot of cool stuff. So this is really new for us to be sitting out here and looking up at the vineyard.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and you guys, it's probably like one of the few times you get to sit down and maybe relax for a second.
Absolutely.
Especially these times of the year. Yeah, it's all the pre-harvest planning, pre-harvest anxiety. So sitting down is really refreshing for us both right now. Yeah.
Love it.
Definitely.
Well, I'm so excited, and I know there's a couple of things I was hoping we could do tonight. We have 3 wines that some of the folks ordered and already have in front of them that we want to taste and have you guys tell us the inspiration and the background to. One of them from Chehalem, Katie, one of them from Stoller, Melissa, and then one of them from Chemistry, which is the project that you guys make your wine together. And I'm so excited to hear about, 1 + 1 = 3. So we know that coming together has to be amazing. So maybe we could start with the first wine we're going to taste, and which is the Chehalem Pinot Gris. And Katie, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the wine, and then I want to hear some of your background about how you got into winemaking.
Oh, okay.
And people out there, our live people, ask questions. I mean, right now you're going to get them answered live, and this will be live for like 24 hours. But if you have questions for the winemakers, absolutely put them in the window, and I'll try to shout them out as we go.
Okay, that sounds great. And if I miss any, please let me know.
Absolutely.
Because questions are definitely always welcome. But I am Katie Santora. I'm the winemaker at Chehalem, and we are tasting the 2019 Chehalem Mountains Pinot Gris. This has been a Chehalem staple for many years, and why we really enjoy it is we just really think it goes well with food. We like it going out to the national market. But with Pinot Gris in general, I don't know how many people know the grape, but if you look at the grape in the vineyard, it actually is gray, and that's why it's called Pinot Gris. So it'll have this translucent gray skin that you really have to be pretty considerate about depending on the style of wine that you would like to make. At Chehalem, we really like to have a more austere, more acid-driven wine or Pinot Gris than a more phenolic, a bit more density to it. But this Pinot Gris is 100% stainless steel, so definitely has some rich aromatics that come just naturally from the grape. But on the palate, it's really lean and bright and just pairs really well with all types of food.
Yeah, especially where we are in the Chesapeake Bay out here on the East Coast, crabs and seafood are like everything. So this is one of Pinot Gris as a grape in general, especially from Oregon, is one of my favorites for summer just for that reason. And I love Shay from South Carolina said she already learned something, so thank you.
Oh, perfect.
About the gray skin. But I love the stainless steel freshness of this. A lot of people, are in that Pinot Grigio rut. So I always try to get them, and I love so many Italian wines, but if I'm going to have this grape, I want it from Oregon. I just feel like it's got more flavor. It's got just such a brightness to it that's so great with summer cuisine.
I was actually just going to say that when you said you're on the East Coast, one of the things I experienced going out to Boston and going to tastings and whatnot was that when I would show the Pinot Gris, you know, everyone would be like, I don't even know what that grape is. And then I realized Pinot Grigio is so big out there because you guys are so close to Italy. And I'd be like, this is the same. It's slightly different, but it's just called Pinot Gris instead of Pinot Grigio.
I love that. I say the Italians just put an O on the end of everything, you know, so it's the same thing.
Pinot Grigio.
On there. I love that. Well, everybody's giving you tons of hearts, by the way. If you can't see it, you're getting tons of hearts out there. But so I got to come out to Pinot Camp. I think it was 2006 or 2007, which is a trade event where you guys educate us and entertain us and really help us know the Willamette Valley. So I got to taste your wines probably a long time ago then. And I think Melissa, I found a photo of us even back then. I guess I met you back then. But you know, many a brain cell ago, right?
Yeah, I want to see that. I remember meeting. I didn't know it was that long ago.
It is. I'll send it to you. But so I've always loved this Chehalem, this and your unoaked Chardonnay, which I was enjoying earlier this week. Also, really preserves the freshness of that grape that you don't get with the oaked versions. What makes you want to do that same thought process, or?
I think with the Chardonnay, especially our stainless steel Chardonnay that you were drinking, for me, it's really fun to share with people that don't think Chardonnay has different layers to it, and they only are expecting an oaked Chardonnay, because really the stainless steel, I feel like, shows the fruit characteristic of the Chardonnay grape in general and what you can get from just really being transparent with just the grape itself, where they're really delicate aromatics, a bit of stone fruit. You can get some floralness, but then also, again, a little bit like the Pinot Gris, just keeping that acid retention that makes it lean, easy drinking, fun to have on a summer day, on a hot East Coast patio. Yeah.
Love it. So I'm going to ask the same question of you, Melissa, but you're going to get a little time to think about it, I guess, now. But Katie, what was I'm sure there's many steps you've taken to get to this point of, you know, being a winemaker. Was there a specific moment in time that like flipped the switch for you that you knew you had to become a winemaker?
That's a really good question. I don't know if it was absolutely an instantaneous switch flip. I think just after I finished going to school for it, I did a bunch of vintages just around the world, and then found myself in Oregon, and twofold happened. One, just meeting a bunch of the people in the industry. They're all so great, and even if you're in marketing or sales or work for a restaurant, just everyone is so kind and they just want to talk about what you're doing. So that's really fun, is that no matter where you go, if you meet other people that are interested in wine, you almost instantly have a good friend, and they really last for a long time. But then also finding a home in Oregon. Oregon's just a really special place. I grew up in Utah, so pretty close, but the Oregon industry here is really collaborative. They're really inclusive. They want just to make the best wines all together, so everyone in the world can know how amazing and spectacular Oregon wines actually are.
I love that.
So I think it's a combo of those that it's like, yeah, I want to be a part of this journey.
That's great. And I remember being in Napa and going to a taco truck party somewhere, which I don't know if you guys have those too. And, you know, just talking to a winemaker, and he said, you know, we're not in this for the money. We're in this for the lifestyle. Like we love wine, we love food, we love connecting with each other. And so it's not a money thing. Maybe for some people it is, but for most people, it's a lot of work, but it's about, you know, exactly what you're describing. So I love that. Yeah, very cool. What about Melissa from Stoller? What about you? Any thoughts on your aha moment?
Well, I am, like most of us are in this industry, a refugee of something else, because it's such a young industry in general in the United States, but specifically in Oregon, we're only going on 53 years of grape growing kind of as a serious industry. So that's not even a lucky person's lifetime, right? If you're fortunate to be able to stay alive for a while. So that said, most people that I know, like Katie and myself and others, they come from something else, because I didn't, go to kindergarten and decide I was going to be a winemaker then. And so I came to winemaking through medicine. I got my degree in science in Portland in the late 90s. And I lived next to a really nice grocery store that did a lot of tastings. So that happened, and I found that organic chemistry kind of gets numbed out by good wine. And so I drink wine and I absorb more of those compounds from studying. And then my mother-in-law also bought a property around the same time that had 12 acres of old vine vineyards on this property she bought for horses. Wow. So kind of this, I experienced wine for the first time and really started to appreciate it in college. And then the in-laws bought this vineyard, and my husband comes from an agriculture family. He didn't know what he wanted to do. So it all kind of pushed together. Oregon was growing, and that was my start. I thought I'd try on being an intern and see if I liked it before I went to grad school. And I did that in 2001 at a winery here in Oregon, and I've been in the industry ever since. I obviously really liked it and grew from there. But then, so I was a refugee from medicine. Wine is medicine if you use it appropriately, right? It's a luxury.
Right, absolutely. So, I'm a defector from the software industry, so.
Okay, there we go. Yes.
Seems to be some of us too. Wow, that's awesome. So let's talk about, because I'm kind of going to do the white, the rosé, and then the red. So we'll end on the Stoller Pinot. But I thought now, you both have this passion for wine. You're both in the industry. You're both in this family of Oregon winemakers. Was it a brainstorm over a bunch of glasses of wine that created this chemistry, or what created the idea to come together and make a wine together? Are you still there? Oh boy. I think we're still live. Can you guys still hear me and see me? I'm seeing some hearts. I'm seeing a little bit of a swirly thing on the Winemakers. Still live, let me know. Okay, so I think Stoller had a little issue, so I'm going to get them back on. Do you guys have any questions for me, for the Stoller folks? I know they'll be logging right back in. I'm sure it was just an interruption in their wireless. Hey, Benisons, we are Penn State. We're still here. I know they're coming back, so I'm not worried. They're frozen. I think they're probably just trying to get back in. Let me see if I can find them. I'm going to add them back in. We'll wait for them to accept. Welcome to my wine room. Any questions? I'm waiting on them to accept and come back in. Oh, Anita, you're well acquainted with the wine room. This is a place you've been many, many a time. So I'm waiting for them. Okay, they're connecting back in. Hey, guys. Hi. All right. You sort of froze up, and then I just figured we'd get back together. Oh, and now we can see you guys a little bit better too, now that you've swapped spaces. So
we realized that the lighting was really bad. It's kind of nice to hide in the shadows, but then, it also doesn't look.
But it was a lovely view, so thank you for that. How long are the old vines good for growing grapes, Mark asked?
They are good as they will stay healthy. Vines have a diminishing return in terms of their yields. Typically, after they get to a certain age, they start to dwindle down. But there's vines that can still be producing up into 100 years. We just don't see very many in this area because, again, it's a young industry. Yeah. Prohibition did not do us any favors with vineyards, right? So right. And such. But I mean, typically in Oregon, old vines are about 25 years old. Sometimes you can find older ones too. But this is what's survived, some of the phylloxera, which is a pest of the soil that has taken out a lot of the vineyards and such. So I guess the answer is kind of ambiguous. It's like comparing a person. If you're healthy,
it depends.
You have a very healthy, long life. And if you, you're growing in soil, you have some disease problems, you might not make it that long. So
yeah. That's a good one. You got it. It's all about TLC, right?
Yeah,
staying healthy.
definitely.
So when we got disconnected, I was asking you guys about how the idea to come together for the chemistry line of wines. And by the way, with the wines, I know there's people that are logged on here. You already have the 3 wines as I do. But if you haven't ordered your virtual tasting pack, you can go to either Stoller or Chehalem's websites. You can still order these 3 wines that we're talking about, so you can taste them after this live and kind of recreate the experience with your friends. So don't worry about not getting the wines. How did the idea of chemistry all come together?
Well, it was pretty organic, I'll say that. It was based off the growth of our companies and Oregon kind of simultaneously. So kind of rewinding a little bit, you know, Chehalem has been operating for 8 years, 27 years?
So the official first vintage was in 1991, just off one of our estate vineyards that was planted in 83. But so since then, really.
So that, and Bill Stoller co-owned Chehalem from its inception. Stoller Family Estate, the vineyard started in 95, the brand started in 01. And then the Stoller Wine Group formed 2 years ago when Bill Stoller purchased all the ownership of Chehalem and also invested on the estate property that we're sitting at here in a larger, we have 2 wineries on the property now. So the second of the 2 is a large space that offers a lot of opportunity for growth. We have invested in tanks and equipment and people and all this, you know, all these things to grow with Oregon in mind, because this industry has been growing. We're still tiny. We make 1% of all the domestic produced wine in the United States here in Oregon. But in our state, the growth has been tremendous. So the opportunity to work with fruit from the Willamette Valley is prime. And so we chose to do all these things to form the Stoller Wine Group and to come up with this product that we wanted to be, we think of it as affordable luxury. So we're taking advantage of our beautiful region, the vineyards that are at our resources, and then the merging of our teams. Because, you know, Katie has been at Chehalem and I've been at Stoller, but now we're really tied together even more so with the wine group and our space that we have. So it's been really a collaboration and an opportunity for the company that we decided to dive in and take. And I think it's been really positive, and people are responding well. They're able to access Willamette Valley wines, grown wines, at an affordable price. This is a retail-facing brand. It doesn't have a tasting room, and it's not meant to. It's meant to be something you can access at your Whole Foods or your grocery store and get a taste of Oregon and the Willamette Valley. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, how it started a couple of years ago, and we've been working together since then on the blends and the sourcing the fruit, and this is super exciting for us.
So
brand new for us.
The chemistry bubbles, the rosé bubbles that we have here, you have 2 of the hottest trends in wine rolled up into one bottle. You got the bubbles and you got the rosé, like 2 of the places that are really hot right now. But tell me, I love that you say, you know, it's about being enjoyed and accessible, but it's still like luxurious and quality. To me, wine's about connection. And obviously you guys had that connection with each other, but you are wanting to make wines where people can have on an everyday basis at the dinner table with friends. What was the inspiration on this one, I would say? I know you love champagne, Melissa. I think I see that on your posts.
Definitely. I was going to say, I think this idea came more from Melissa and Kate Payne-Brown, another winemaker at the Reserve Winery, Stoller side, but she I feel like wants to become like the sparkling overlord.
That's Kate, our winemaker.
Kate. And so
Stoller,
she, I think, was, you know, has been talking, obviously started LaRue's on the Stoller side, but then there's a couple other blends that she's putting together. And I think just that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that concept just kind of is in everyone's blood. And who doesn't love affordable bubbles that you can open without feeling guilty about, and like enjoy a Tuesday and be like, yeah, that was a really hard day today. I'm going to open this delicious bottle of bubbles and not feel guilty about it.
I love it. So tell me a little bit more about how you make it, you know, the wine itself. We even have a winery from Italy on here, the Terradora winery from Italy. So you guys are talking some Italian winemakers too. So tell us a little bit about the rosé bubbles and your process.
Sure. So this is Pinot Noir Rosé. So we start off treating the Pinot Noir like a white wine. as we do with our rosé programs across the companies. You know, we grow it and we harvest it earlier. We grow it a little differently than we would our Pinot Noir for our red wine programs. So that's the starting point, because we feel like we have to really plan and get from the vineyard what we're looking for quality, either sparkling or still rosé. So it starts there. And then we work to make this wine. We actually add the CO2. This is not a traditional method of making sparkling wine. It's bubbles, you know, because we force carbonate it, which doesn't have to be this, like, you know, bad thing. Like you're not afraid to talk about. It's a technique that allows us to make a high quality product at a very approachable price point. And that was a huge challenge for us winemakers, because I feel like there's not a lot in that category that's the quality that I'm personally looking for, or that we're personally looking for. A lot of it has to do with the size of the bubbles. So we wound to the start of making this wine during harvest and work with some folks in the community at resources we could think about while you ferment. How can you try to ensure that you have enough material to hold on to these bubbles that you add later? So without getting too technical, that was top of our mind. We wanted something that was obviously refreshing and sparkling, but we don't want these like LaCroix-like bubbles that are so assertive. So that was a challenge. And the other part was bottling it itself too, is just what method are we going to go? Are we going to use a crown cap? Or we elected to use cork with a cage. So we did a lot of research about packaging and all that. So it started off with intention, and it was a big opportunity and kind of a scary, and I would say scary, but a challenge for us because it was new. And I think it was successful, and it's something that our whole team is very proud of because of it. So we feel like the quality is there and we can stand behind it, and just excited to see where it goes.
I love it. So the chemistry, rosé bubbles, is Pinot Noir based. And when you talked about the carbonation, are you doing it similar to a Prosecco process, or?
No, we're doing it. I think Prosecco is just done in tank.
Okay.
And bottle. We're doing this literally on the line. So you're getting your base wine, your rosé that you've made, and it's balanced and it's where you want it. Very, very cold, and then you're infusing CO2 into that wine. And bottling it on the spot there. So that whole process is not a new process for making sparkling beverages, not necessarily alcoholic ones, but again, the challenge for us was really working with how that would interact with the wines and making sure the bubbles weren't too aggressive. So that was a big part of our research and our winemaking on this.
Love it. And what does this individual wine retail for, or suggested?
It's around $20 retail.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's great. And any bubbly I can find that I love that's $20 and under, I'm basically celebrating by opening a bottle of that bubbly. I don't know about you guys. That's awesome. And I know in the chemistry line, you also have a Pinot Noir and a Pinot Gris that you're making 3 different varietals now. Are they pretty well, are you just getting into distribution? I know we can buy them on your website, but can people find them here on the East Coast already?
They will be able to. It's growing for sure. I know we're across the states. We have distribution in almost all the states. And so chemistry is getting out there. It's new. So it'll take some time, but for sure you can get it off the website. You can probably ask your retailer for it and they could inquire about it. But the goal is to have it available, broadly available across the US on the East Coast for sure.
Nice. And I love that right now you have if you get a case of wine, you have overnight shipping for $25, which is basically what you pay for any shipping, any other wine website.
That's one way the Postal Service is actually working with us, not against us right now, is with overnight shipping. So I really appreciate that and hope that sticks around.
Love it. Okay, cool. So we're going to taste the Stoller Pinot Noir as well. But I thought I have another question that I would love to get your thoughts on. We'll start with Melissa this time and let Katie have the think time. But and you can't pick one of your own wines. That's my only caveat with answering this question. But I always talk about my death row wine. If I only could have, if somehow I found myself on death row and I could only have one more wine before I go, what would be your wine, Melissa?
What would be my wine?
Yeah, your last wine.
My gosh, I hate having to choose one thing. But
I know it's like choosing a child.
a champagne. I don't know. I have to really think about what producer. I like Billicart Simone a lot. Their brut rosé.
Oh yeah.
That. Just something refreshing, sparkling with texture. Champagne goes with everything. It goes with Death Row probably real well.
I love that.
I don't want to find that out, but I think
actually that would be a great name for a champagne. I think we've come up with a great idea here. What about you, Katie?
That is such a hard question. I'd have to know what mood I am in on death row, but
somber.
Yeah, somber. But I do one wine that really sticks out to me in general, and I think it's always ones that either make your mind think differently about wine, was when I first moved back to Oregon and got the job at Chehalem in 2012. I tried this Domaine Drouhin Chardonnay called Arthur from 2011 that just blew my mind. I was just this is what can be done here. It still just stands out in my mind. And so if I could go back and drink that bottle again, I'd probably be pretty happy.
I love that. And sometimes you're right. It is it's the moment and the place and the people. Because people will ask me that all the time. I was in Italy or I was in France or I was in Oregon and I had this wine and it was just, everything was perfect. And then I tried to do it again at home and it just wasn't the same. Totally. So there is something to be said for the company and the setting and the whole experience coming together for sure. I love that.
I'll be on death row. I'd want a really high alcohol wine on second thought.
I'd want something
really, really high, the highest alcohol I could find. That is probably super unromantic, but
exactly. Well, hopefully none of us will ever have to really answer this question. So it's just a fun way to think about. I think I'm sort of torn between the idea of a champagne and an Italian Barolo would be high up on my list. Which was really interesting. I've been to Piedmont a fair amount of times and taken people on tours there. And there seems to be this, and they call it the Burgundy of Italy, the Piedmont region, because it has so many different crus and smaller vineyards that can produce very different Barolos. But there seemed to be a connection, from what I could tell, between the winemakers there and the winemakers in Oregon, and even cross travel. Have you ever connected with any winemakers from Italy or other regions that you find inspiration from?
Absolutely. We sadly, this is the first year in a decade at least that we haven't had an Italian intern here at Stoller, and international interns across the companies because of the way things are today. So it's really sad, but we have established early on a relationship with the University of Padova in Italy. And it's northern Italy. A lot of their students would come over, and it kind of spawned this interest in Stoller in particular for Italian interns. So we've had interns from all over Italy and made some really great connections. So yes,
that's great.
That's the sheer nature of our harvest, and the whole global harvest travel community has really bridged a lot of our continents with the collaboration and winemaking. So for sure. And again, it's sad this year that we don't have anybody coming over. So
I just wish I could come out to Oregon.
I know, me
So,
too.
Jackson, Jay Jackson is asking about the cute seeds that came with the tasting kit.
Is that from Chehalem?
Yeah.
Yeah, so at Chehalem for Earth Day, but it turned into Earth Month. If you bought, I think, a full case, they were little neckers that went on some of the bottles. And basically, it was just a little token to plant in your garden and then get some really pretty wildflowers, because we're B Corp, so the Stoller Wine Company is B Corporation. And it's just another way of giving back to the earth. And then also you see some really pretty flowers in your yard.
Oh, I love that.
So just a little treat.
Yeah, that is a treat. And they're not the seeds from China, which you're not supposed to plant. So we know they're okay.
No.
Anita, yeah, exactly. Anita Benison from New Jersey is asking, we're having salmon tonight, and I know we're just getting ready to taste our Stoller Red. Which of these three wines is going to go best with our dinner? That's probably a trick question, huh?
Well, luckily all three of them pair so well because all of these wines have great acidity and they don't have a lot of tannin. So that'll pair nicely with the oiliness of salmon. But classically, with the pairings coming to mind, Pinot and salmon, Pinot Noir and salmon is a slam dunk because you get a lot of times in Pinot Noir's earthiness and a lot of this cherry and things and the tannin's moderate and the acid levels tend to be high. It goes so well with salmon, just that richness of salmon.
And that's a perfect segue because our third wine of the pack is the Stoller Dundee Hills Pinot Noir. And I had the pleasure a couple years ago, and I think it was around harvest time, getting to come out and visit the winery and even have a little lunch with your team there. So tell us a little bit about the Dundee Hills Pinot Noir.
Absolutely. So this Pinot Noir for Stoller Family Estate is a very much representation of the entire vineyard that we have planted. So Stoller is in the Dundee Hills. It's an AVA of the Willamette Valley. So we've got these different AVAs that are unique by their topography. Dundee Hills is basically an island of hills in this flat valley that we have here. It's about 80,000 acres. So Stoller is in the southwest corner. We have 200 and almost 40 acres of wine grapes planted on one contiguous hillside. And it's almost entirely volcanic soil. All estate grown fruit, farmed by us, the wineries on the property here. So very, very obviously consistent then with the vineyard. And we make a lot of bottlings of Pinot Noir from our estate. This is our largest bottling, this Dundee Hills, representing the AVA. And again, to me, it's the best representation of our site because in this bottling of Pinot every single year, you're ultimately getting every clone of Pinot that we grow, all the elevations that the Pinot's grown at, all the different blocks then have their little signature of flavor differences. If you go in the cellar, it's pretty incredible how different from one hill Pinot can be. But in this bottle, you get a little bit of everything. So it's really a mosaic of the estate. It's made in a way to really show off the fruit. We don't use a lot of new oak. We don't try to over stylize it by doing this or that. We're just trying to work with the fruit to show off what Pinot does so well, is show off the site and create this balanced Pinot every year. So that through that lens of winemaking being, I wouldn't say hands off, but transparent, not over styled. And then in the consistency of our estate, you can really see the vintage variation every year with this bottling. And you could also follow the maturity of the vineyard if one wanted to, like buy all these different Dundee Hill bottlings, you could find them. But it's definitely our flagship. And it's something that we built to be the calling card for Stoller. It's approachable luxury as well because I think it's very price friendly. I mean, you can find this for $30, which is pretty incredible knowing all of the amount of resources that go into growing and making this wine in our area. So it offers people a really great opportunity to try high quality Pinots from the area. And so it's probably the favorite wine that we make at Stoller because of that. I feel like just that consistency is really a beautiful thing to offer.
Yeah, it's that bright fruit, like the cherry, the red fruit, that good acidity. It's just so zippy. I just love it. And it's going to go with a wide variety of foods because of that good combination of acid and, obviously soft tannins because you have the grape and that you're not spending, a lot of time in oak for this version. I've had your reserve, which is also great too, but a different expression. So I love this question. Is it Willamette or Willamette?
It's Willamette, damn it.
Yes.
That's how you remember. It's just Willamette, damn it.
Right. Because I'm sure you guys, it's still, it's funny that I was told the most mispronounced word in the wine business is meritage, which rhymes with heritage, but everyone calls it meritage. That's kind of fallen off the that's kind of out of favor these days, but that's probably the second most mispronounced word, I would think, that prompted the t-shirts.
So
what did you say?
That means it's getting out to people more, so that's great.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Awesome. So Anita said, haha, she likes your rhyming. You're rhyming with that. So that was her question. Thank you very much. So I love this too. So what about that? Just real quick. I love all three of these wines. Again, stylistically, the Pinot Gris that we tasted from Chehalem is a pretty good, for people that are maybe just getting into Oregon wine, it's a pretty good example of what you're going to expect from most of the Pinot Gris, right? Unoaked, fresh, crisp, and bright.
Absolutely. I mean, Pinot Gris in general was, or Oregon, I feel like in the beginning was put on the map because of Pinot Gris. And so it's definitely one of our staples.
I love it. And then I love sparkling wine. I started out trying sparklings from like Argyle, which isn't too far away from you all. But I love that you guys are making them now too, because I just, I'm like you, on a Tuesday night, sparkling wine seems right, you know?
Yeah.
And Pinot Noir wise, I know Chehalem, you also have a sort of, don't want to say basic, but you know, a less oak style and then more reserve styles. When people see reserve on a bottle, you know, what should they expect?
I mean, I think there isn't a technical legal term for using reserve, so it is a little bit confusing. I know at Chehalem for our reserve Pinot Noir, we really choose the best barrels from that vintage and make a blend to really showcase the vintage. And it usually has more density in general. I want those to age longer than maybe our entry level Pinot Noir. But I know, I mean, people, you can use the name on anything. So that's all I know is that that's what we do at Chehalem.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you guys do at Stoller.
At Stoller, it's similar for sure. It's definitely derived from the vineyard. So we start there and we work with these sections that we call our all-star. You know, we're not Burgundy, so it's not the Grand Cru, which, by the way, one of my favorite people is on this, Kyriakis. He's our consultant from Burgundy. He's a Greek, but the most amazing people. But I'm so happy to see his face pop up in some USA
so
parts
awesome.
there. He's been working with us. I've been working with him since I started in the industry with Stoller. So back 2003, my first vintage, I remember starting working with him. So he comes out a couple times a year. So just a little side note to Burgundy, since I see Burgundy represented.
Awesome.
But for us, the reserve is, we start in the vineyard, we work with our blocks that stand out time and time again over the years, and we work from there. We do a lot of blending, like Katie said too, between barrel groups, even between individual barrels, to really showcase something that has a little bit more density, length, expression. Typically, we will have a wine that uses a little bit more new oak, not a lot, but it really can be so complementary to these older blocks. And we use entirely indigenous yeast on the reserve when possible, which is 90% of the time. And it's it's made in a style that's meant to be aged a little longer. So you can definitely taste the difference when you're here and you're working with Pinot Noir between these sections and between the blends. And so that's a real advantage to being a winemaker, is having the opportunity to be an artist in that way and show off, you know, these different expressions of such a beautiful grape.
That's great. That's wonderful. So if there are some ladies and even men on this live stream that have the inspiration that someday they want to be a winemaker like you guys, what's each of you maybe one piece of advice you could give them on working towards that dream?
I guess I would suggest just getting into it and getting an internship somewhere and really seeing what it actually is about. I think the idea of winemaking is really glamorous and pretty, but it's actually really a lot of hard work, and it's really dirty. And I mean, we can look pretty when we're not doing it, but especially during vintage when it's, you know, 14-hour days.
You guys look great.
14-hour days, you really see the true aspect of what it takes to make these wines. And it's hard. And then if you get through a vintage and you're still really interested, there's definitely steps to get more involved. But I would say get dirty first, for sure.
Oh, I love that. Get dirty. Katie's advice. Love it. What about Melissa? What do you think?
I would probably start by looking at the average salary that you get as a winemaker and then go from there and just make sure you know what you're getting yourself into there, right? Because you work usually for some kind of compensation. And then if you're okay, then yeah, I would say just educate yourself as much as possible with wine, and yes, get a vintage. Like there's so many classes now, online classes, tasting groups. Like just if you really want to know then just make it your curiosity and make your curiosity your passion then. And that'll kind of lead you in the path. If you're just like in love with this, then you know you're in the right spot, right? And
yeah.
like,
Jay said, well, the money might not be there, but the perks are really good. So
they are, and that's
That
what
is true.
that's what we have agreed to. But
Yeah.
I guess you just have to be very logical before you leap, right? And then just kind of follow your interests and go. But for sure, internships are available, and especially for people that are showing that they're interested in the industry and taking some courses. Wineries are more inclined to take you on as an intern, never having made wine before, if you have that piece, and get dirty, try it out, and see if you like the harvest hours and all that kind of stuff first. And
love it. So wineries are open for business now in Oregon, correct?
they are.
There are some restrictions, definitely. It's not just go at your free will. I'm pretty sure everywhere in Oregon, at least at Chehalem and Stoller, you have to have a reservation.
Okay.
Everything is a little bit different, which what I've heard from the tasting rooms, in my experience, I would like it a lot more. You really get one-on-one attention a bit more. You're set up with a tasting. They come and talk to you. You know, it's set time, I think 60 minutes, 90 minutes. So you really get a lot more attention than if the whole place is packed and you're just trying to taste one thing. So in a weird way, I think it's kind of, maybe you don't see as many people, but it's kind of a benefit from COVID.
Nice. Yeah, there are some benefits. I try to focus on those for sure. Like not having to go wait in the waiting room at your doctor's office. You can just do it on your computer. You don't even have to go over there now.
Totally.
Get dirty, make wine. That's your t-shirt she said that you should get, Katie.
That sounds like a good
Who knew? Who knew? Awesome. Well, you ladies are so much fun. If you guys, I mean, the people that are coming in through my page, if you haven't followed Chehalem Wines, Stoller Wine, and then Chemistry Wines have their own Instagram page. Definitely get out there and follow them. The virtual wine tasting packs, if you didn't have the wine right now, but you want to get it so you can taste all these amazing wines, you can get on either of the Stoller or Chehalem websites. I know next week I have a Wine Down Wednesday virtual tasting coming up. If anybody wants to join in with Anita, who's going to be there, we're going to fall in love with Spanish wine because I think there's so much great value coming out of Spain that people are kind of afraid if they don't know what the varietals are in the regions. So we're going to have fun with that. But do you guys have any upcoming virtual tastings or events that we should know about?
Oh man, if we do, they will be on our Instagram or our website. I feel like we're always doing something. I'm like drawing a blank now. So I'm sure there's something coming up. But again, I would just follow Stoller, Chehalem Chemistry Instagram because we're really good about promoting there for these type of things. And then on our websites as brands, there's always information there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, you'll be apprised of what's coming up.
Well, I'm hoping that we get this all under control very soon so I can get back out to Oregon because if any of you have never been to Oregon, you absolutely want to go. It's just the type of place, I don't know. I don't always feel this when I go to wine regions, but when I go out there, I'm like, I think I could kind of live here. It's just very welcoming and people are just really, really friendly and down to earth. And I love that about that wine region. You don't feel like you have to be on your best behavior all the time. And I've only been given one good piece of advice, which I don't know if you guys will agree with me, is don't end up at Lumpy's.
Oh, please don't.
I was going to say, do it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
Katie says do it.
It's just like it sounds the next morning if you go there.
Yeah.
What did I get run over by?
So those of you who are adventurous, maybe you want to find out what that means. Okay, Benison's will be there next week, and everybody else is excited to follow you. Ladies, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Get the wines. They're super amazing, and you guys are an inspiration to us all. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Ditto.
so much.
Come out so we can hang out next soon, too.